and welcome to my world, and hope you all had a good 25th Christmas Day or just a good Friday in general. In today's video, we're doing the top 10 albums of 2020. So this is almost like a little bit of continuation from the last video where we did top 20 songs, which by the way, not seen that, go and check that out. It's a pie, it's a jam, you're gonna have a good time. This time we're just gonna sit down, we're gonna chill, and we're gonna honestly just talk about albums. Honestly, I do this by myself all the time and I love it to death, so this is a dream come true. I've never had a dream come true. Okay, let me put some disclaimers first. First, the obvious one, it's my opinion. That's my opinion! So if you disagree with the album or you think another album should have been higher or lower or whatever, just like tell me in the comments, like let's have a discussion. Secondly, like Amanda said, because love her to death, I'm a pop brat. I am not listening to every single album literally this year. Honestly, just have a good time, enjoy. If you love music too, just subscribe. Just join the fam. Join the fam. I'm almost at 3K and I'm so excited because that's my goal for the end of the year. So if we can get to 3K, oh, that is so good. And without further ado, let us begin. We're gonna start off with album number 10. Actually, to be honest, this album came out of the middle of nowhere. Like, I didn't expect to like this album, and the more I listen to it, the more I do, which is Shawn Mendes' Wonder. Now, I've actually reacted to Shawn Mendes' albums when I was like a baby. Like when I was 15 and 17. Wow. And where I used to be like, Shawn Mendes is the love of my life and I could do anything for him. Especially because now listening to Shawn Mendes' last album, I was like, oh, that's okay, it's not my fave. I was expecting this album to be kind of the same. And then Shawn Mendes did what I wanted him to do for ages. Play with his production and his sound, and honestly it's so good. Like, it's such a nice album. I love how there's like the vintage sound to it, like there's some reminiscences of like the 60s and the 70s in there. Very hip. How it's like a little bit soft rock and it's so good. And I feel like, again, with this album, it's a very much like a comfort album. Like, I know that I'll probably listen to this if I just want like a hug or something. Like, I'd put this in the same category of comfort albums as like Red and Unapologetically, that little category. This is where Shawn Mendes' album will sit. Love it to death. My favorites from the album are Teach Me How to Love, that's like their #1 song. It's so good. Higher and Look Up at the Stars. Oh my god, Look Up at the Stars is so cute because it's about his fans. And oh my god, it's just adorable. And the songs I don't like are Piece of You, 24 Hours, and A Song for No One. Generally, this album is so good and it's just a nice listen, you know? Like, it's such a comfy listen. Like, honestly, if it was me, I would have it with my weighted blanket over there. And honestly, like with this sweatshirt on, this is like my comfort sweatshirt because I'm filming this on Boxing Day, so I just want to be all comfy and whatever. Be in the vibes, with the mood. Like, I feel like this is like mood music and I love it. Album number 9. Okay, number 9, she's a fun album. She's full of empowerment and she's about a girl group. So the number 9 is Blackpink's The Album. Honestly, like, I'm surprised not many people have spoken about this album. I'm really surprised. The same with Shaw's, like no one really spoke about it, but I'm particularly surprised with this one. Like, I feel like the reactions happened and that was it. And I was like, wait, what? This album is great, okay? Pretty Savage, I See You Girl, because I actually also reacted to this album. And I remember I didn't like that song at first, and then the 2-second listen, I was like, mind blown. We love a bit of girl empowerment. We love that to death. I also love women within music. And I feel like Blackpink, the sound is crafted really well. And I feel like they know exactly what they're doing. And I think I love that. Also, I love K-pop. And I'm so happy that K-pop artists are starting to become more and more appreciated within a Western world, because I don't know, I just am. I just love it. And it's just so fun. This album is like, be the bad bitches you always wanted to be. My favorites from this album are Pretty Savage, Chef's Kiss at this point, How You Like That, and How You Love to Hate Me. Left. They're mine. And my least favorite is Love Sick Girls, but that's because it's not my genre. I say that, I'm just not a dance pop kid. Number 8. Actually, this was another album that took me by surprise, honestly. And again, I reacted to this album and I was really surprised that I enjoyed it a lot. And that was Katy Perry's Smile. Katy Perry, I've never been like a stan of Katy. Like, even when I was younger, I was never like, whoa, I love her. I think she pretty much defined my like pre-teenhood, because like the 2010s was pretty much dominated by Katy Perry until like the Witness era. And I was like, yes, Katy, yes. Like with Firework and like the whole album of Teenage Dream and the song Teenage Dream. And even with like then Raw and Dark Horse, that was so significant in my life. I feel like, especially if you're like a pop brat, I love that tone now. Ooh, you definitely have listened to K-pop at some point. And with this album, I think I was really excited because I was really liking the Singlet era with like Never Really Over and Hardy's in Hawaii. And then I also really was excited because I like Daisies and Smile. And I was like, you know what? Let's just listen to it. Let's react. And I did. And my heart was like, wow, we love a story. We love development. We love growth. And it's so nice because I feel like, especially it's very personal for her. Even the sound feels like her. Every single track on that album feels like a Katy track at one point or another. It's just such a good album, honestly. My favorites from the album are Tucked, Not the End of the World, and it's either like Cry About It Later, Hardy's in Hawaii, or Smile. It's like one of those three. Hardy's in Hawaii, that end note. I'm never over that end note. I'm never over that end note. The only two songs I was like, about were like Teary Eyed and Only Love, still. But they're not like bad songs. Like I wouldn't be like, ew, like they're the worst. I'd just be like, I'll listen, I'll bop, but they're not my fave. I will say, I do think this era could be better. It's my personal opinion. Like I feel like, especially Not the End of the World, like we could have got such a cool music video. Such an epic song. Oh my god, Not the End of the World is such a good song. This is what I need in 2020. Number 7. Okay, number 7. I feel like this album has been through my rankings at different points at some area. Like it's going up, then down, then like wherever. When I listened to it, when I was trying to figure out the ranking for like the second half, because most of the top 5, I kind of figured out what my ranking was, but the second 5, I was like, where are we going? And I think listening to this album, I was like, you know what? This album deserves to be here, which is Kian Langsdale's Rainbow Boy, which is such an underrated album. I'm surprised no one's listened to it or no one's talking about it because this album is so good. It's giving you all the pop tracks you could desire. It's giving you genre bending. It's giving you production. It's giving you self-identity. It's giving you proud to be black. It's giving you proud to be LGBTQ+. It's giving you, it sounds like I should be in Drag Race. It's basically giving what people have wanted. I feel like it's got a bit of an 80s sound. It's got like a 50s thingy. It's got vocals. If you've seen my top 20 songs of 2020, Kian has come up quite a lot. I think he came up like 3 times with I Confess My Love, On My Way, and Gay Street Fire. Literally, if that could be your taste, go and listen to the rest. Like there's so many other good songs. Like Ancient Ones is another one of my faves. Like Ancient Ones is such a good song. Like then that was the one I initially was like, yep, that's my song. It's such a good song. It's just celebrating life. Like I feel like that's the album. The album is just celebratory. And I love that. I love that celebrating his identity and his pride. And another one I've recently fallen in love with, Play. Play is that bitch, okay? Play the album, there we go. After this video, play that album. And also play the next album, which is number 6. I'm so happy for this group. You probably can tell which group I'm gonna say because I stan this group. I stan this group with all my heart. Ever since X Factor, which is Little Mix's Cafe, I stan Little Mix. Like I think I have every single one of their albums, including their EP. I also have one of their vinyls, and honestly, Little Miss Cafe, she knows how to pie. We know how to celebrate. And also this album probably means a lot for stans because this album is the first album they are out of their old management and into the new one. And it's like, you can tell that there is so much more effort being put in. So they're getting the promotion they deserve, and we stand that. Yes, we do. I love this album and I love Little Mix to death. And I think this is such a good album in general. All their voices are magnificent, stunning, incredible. Like literally, I also react to this, even put my thumb up. Vocals. Their vocals, they were just so good. Like so good and so incredible and magnificent. And my favorite songs from the album are Gloves Up, Happiness. If you see my ranking, you know that was my top 4th song of 2020. It's so good and it's such like a empowering song, which I feel like for me mentally, like I can really relate to, and I just love it. And my other favorite of the album, I think at the moment is Confetti, because Confetti is that bitch. Confetti is like, we don't need a man. It reminds me of the Cher quote, which is, Mama told me to marry a rich man. I am the rich man. It reminds me of that kind of energy, and that's the energy we need. We're into our top 5 now. This top 5, if you're going to listen to any of the albums, I'm gonna recommend you to listen from like 7 upwards. Like every album from 7 upwards, you need to listen to. Number 5, I realized this album was not really spoken about, and I think it needs the justice it deserves. This album gets you through it. This album goes through the feels. It's chill, yet upbeat. It gives you bad bitch energy, and then it gives you sad boy energy at the same time. good. It's Kiana Today's Kiki. Stunning, incredible, magnificent. Wow. I love R&B in general, and I think R&B is such a cool genre. And this album is so good. It's so cohesive. I say with this album in particular, this album you have to listen to full, like from beginning to end, because it feels like a prison, and like prison has like layers. This album, her vocals, Kiana's vocals have always impressed me, but I feel like particularly with this album, like she was just like, let me show you what I've got. Boom. And I'm just there like, girl, it's so good. The album is so good and it's so beautiful. My favorite tracks from the album are Chocolate. Love Chocolate with Ari Lennox. Plenty more. Protection and You're Thinking About Me When I'm Gone with Aaron Ray. And also the one thing I really like about this album was with a lot of the collabs, they're very much like discussion based collabs. So it's not just like, for example, it's not just like, oh my god, this is two thinking about the thing. It's almost like two are in a conversation talking to each other. I love that because I feel like you don't really see a lot of collabs like that. I know that XL did this, but I think Number 4. Again, another album that kind of took me by surprise. I feel like with this album, it was more like, okay, let's give it a little bit of a listen, because I liked one of the songs initially and I was like, oh, you know what? I saw Ashley react to it, love her. And I was like, you know what? Let's give it a listen. Listen to it, mind blown. Incredible, outstanding, 5 out of 5, which is BTS's B. Now, I'm pretty sure they're gonna release like a big, huge album. The whole of the mini album will be part of it, but this mini album, girl, this mini album, incredible, outstanding, magnificent. I also love this album because I feel like this album, the most out of any, has been the most, or at least feels to me the most current, you know, talking about what's happening in the world. If you watch Ashley's video, she talks about the translation and actually puts the translations onto the screen so you know what they're speaking about. And now knowing what they're speaking about, this album makes it a much more emotional than other albums, to be honest. And again, they're speaking about like what's happening as a group, how they feel separated and and it's so nice because you see their perspective of the whole like COVID matter and lockdown and whatever, but you also see them like miss each other, and then you see them go like, you know what, like let's celebrate life. Like we're not gonna just sit here and be sad, because like we could do that, or we can celebrate what we got and be grateful. And I feel like that's really nice to have. Plus, one of my favorite songs is on there, Disease. Disease is a masterpiece, okay? Actually, I will say the last 3 really are good. Disease, Stay, and Dynamite. Chef's Kiss. Stay is such a fun song. And also the first song, Life Goes On. Wow, love that one. I honestly just love this album, and it's so good. Number 3, okay, I'm an Ari stan. I basically remember who it was. Surprise! I'm gonna explain this. So number 3 is Ariana Grande Positions. Magnificent album. Now, if you're an Ari stan, you have known that Ariana Grande is much more of an R&B girl than a pop girl. And a lot of fans have been craving for Ariana to go R&B, to be fully R&B, not just like kind of R&B, but fully. And honestly, Positions was the R&B album also I adore. Again, there are a little bit of pop in there. There's such a good R&B album. Like, it's so good and it feels like her. Like, I would say the 3 albums that like feel like Ari are Yours Truly, Sweetener, and Positions. Like, these 3 feel so much like Ari. I feel like those albums really feel like her, and I would say even with this album, it does. If you watch the Zang, she kind of explains that it's a story about falling in love. And as soon as you know that and you listen to it, you're like, there is a concept, there's a story. Honestly, I love it so much. I love the sound. I love it so much. And I feel like with this album in particular, she's really playing with her voice. And I think that's what makes this album a 10 out of 10. My top 3 from this album are My Hair, High Note, I'm Still Not Over. I always get like the next 3, I'm like, where are we going? Because I love Obvious, I love POV, I love Safety Net, I also love Motive, and Shut Up. I love Shut Up as an intro song. It's so good. I honestly do love this album so much. Also, congratulations to Ari and Dalton. Yeah. Number 2 is that. Again, like I said, for my number 2 and number 1 in the songs, 1 and 2 in albums, they are fighting. The girlies are fighting. This album took me by surprise. Honestly, I love that. And I remember listening to this as a piece and I was like, whoa, I've been sleeping under a rock. And the more I listen to it, the more and more I love it. More and more I'm being transported onto a journey. And I just feel like flying. I feel with ease. I just feel like, wow, this album is incredible. and that is Victoria Monet's Jaguar. Why are you all sleeping on this album? Everyone I feel like is not talking about this album. I'm like, why? This album is so beautiful, so incredible, so fun, so beautiful, so carefully thought out. Every single element of this album, you can tell Victoria has thought about. So writing, vocals, production, orchestra, and then modern production. It's got loads of like the disco and the 70s theme. And also though, it's super modern and it feels very much like I'm diving into like, diving into this like world that I didn't even know existed. Like I feel like when I think of this album, I think of like the 70s, gold, warm hues. I think of like the jungle. I think of like being proud of being black and celebrating your black identity. I think of luscious. I think of luxury. I think of sexuality. It's so incredible, and honestly, I love this album so much. My top 3 from this album are Jaguar, Dive, and We Might Be Falling in Love. And now we're on to my number 1. My number 1 has just been with me, and I feel like, again, like this album, it transports you to another world, it transports you to another dimension. It really is so good at escapism, and it's such a good album for celebration and life and fun. Again, this album, I think of a totally different aesthetic, but it still transports me there, and it's super cohesive and super fun and just so enjoyable, and I love this album to death. My number 1 album of 2020 is Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa. Honestly, I love this album to death. Like, again, we've been on a journey with this album. I reacted to it. I had a look inspired by it. We literally have been through it with this album. It was the album that I didn't know I needed, but I'm glad that I got, and now I never want to let go. This album is so fun and so enjoyable to listen to and such a good time. And the aesthetic of this album, again, even with the sound, you picture it. Like it's the same with Jaguar, like you picture the aesthetic, you picture the 80s and disco and fun and glitter and color and space, and I love it so much. Like if I had to say an album that represents me, this would be probably one of the albums I would choose. I love this album so much, and the pop perfection in there, we stand. My favorites from this album, again, if you watch my top 20 songs of 2020 video, you already know it's Levitating, Cool, and Pretty Please. Chef's kiss. Honestly, I adore this album so much. Now we've done the top 20, let me give you some honorable mentions that I feel like need to be included. Like, they needed to be, because if we didn't, I would feel so bad. My honorable mentions are Max's Color Vision, Taylor Swift Folklore, Taylor Swift Evermore, Chloe and Halle Ungodly Hour, Rina Sawayama's Sawayama, Miley Cyrus's Plastic Hearts. If I forgot, I'll put them here. That is the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Comment down below your favorite albums of 2020. Make sure you stick around next week because we're going to be talking about my favorites of 2020 in general. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next week. Cheers, adios, goodbye people, goodbye.